So let's first start off today's episode with Sony because it appears that Sony is working on their brand new flagship noise canceling headphones, and these headphones are going to be the successor to the WH-1000X M3, and those are regarded as some of the best headphones on the market without a doubt when it comes to noise canceling. If you want noise canceling headphones, Sony is pretty much the cream of the crop. They're even beating out Bose in a lot of different situations when it comes to their headphones, because not only are they headphones some of the best headphones for noise canceling specifically, they also have a lot of different features that Bose don't even have on their headphones. That's why so many people go to the Sony 1000X M3, and I can say from personal use, I have owned one of Sony's past noise canceling headphones, and one of Sony's past noise canceling headphones is flat out amazing, at least when it comes to the noise canceling aspect. So if you want noise canceling headphones, Sony is the one to go to. And this article right here is pretty much talking about how they're going to have the successors, of course, without a doubt. They're going to be called the 1000X M4, and apparently from all the rumors and leaks out there on the internet, it looks like these headphones aren't going to be all too much different than the 1000X M3. Basically, what they're going to be doing is adding a couple of features here or there, but when it comes to the main design of these headphones, unfortunately, you're not going to be getting a new design, which is kind of unfortunate, but again, it's not that bad because these headphones never really felt too bad to actually wear. They're pretty light, they're pretty durable. Overall, I personally like the design of these headphones a lot, so if it works, why change the design of these headphones? I did hear somewhere that the new 1000X M4 may have a slightly different band, maybe more thicker, I do believe, or thinner, but either way, they may make them slightly more comfortable, but you wouldn't notice the difference between the XM3s versus the XM4s when these actually come to market, which is kind of unfortunate, especially if you're a person that always likes upgrading your technology. It always makes it worse for people upgrading because then it's like less enticing for somebody to upgrade their old headphones to the new headphones just due to the fact that they look identical with slightly better specs inside. And one of the main features is, apparently from all the leaks and rumors on the internet, they may actually let you pair more than one device. And honestly, this is some pretty amazing news considering Bose actually allows you to do this, and some other manufacturers allow you to do that as well. And honestly, I've had headphones in the past, specifically like Bose and some other headphones, that actually make it very convenient to actually let you pair Bluetooth to multiple devices. So like for instance, maybe you're watching a movie on your tablet, for instance, and then maybe you have it connected to your phone, so when you get a phone call, it'll switch right over. And I think that's actually a really convenient feature. However, I did hear somewhere that apparently with the new 1000X M4, they are going to be sacrificing some audio quality in a certain department, so you will get slightly less audio sound. So basically, certain, I think, codecs when it comes to sound won't sound as good, but honestly, I don't think that's a big deal if that does come to fruition, just because I think most people buying these headphones aren't people who are really trying to buy headphones specifically for like hi-fi audio and things like that. I don't think people are audiophiles when you're buying these. You're mostly specifically buying these headphones for the aspect of noise canceling, and you want some amazing cans for noise canceling. Overall, they're looking like some pretty good headphones, and why change what already works with the XM3? So yeah, just little improvements here, basically with the software, giving us some new features and things like that. So that is very interesting that they're pretty much going to be changing just pretty much on the software side and nothing much. I would assume they would have slightly better noise canceling or about the same, and add some new features here or there. The one downside to these headphones is it looks like Sony is sticking to their price here, and the price of these aren't going to be different than the XM3s. They are going to be at $350, which is actually funny that Microsoft Surface headphones 2, I think, already beat them at $250, when those headphones, the previous model of the Microsoft Surface headphones, used to be $350. So they used to be right up with the big boys, but now I guess they're really trying to compete in that aspect. But yeah, overall, some pretty interesting news. But sorry to all you people who maybe wanted to upgrade your headphones or were looking for a redesign. This is not going to be it, but overall, some pretty much some welcome additions to these headphones that'll pretty much just bring them up. But for people who already own these XM3s, there's almost no point for you to upgrade to the XM4s. It really does seem like. And again, every time I always talk about new products and things like that, keep in mind that all this is rumors and speculations, but time and time again, most of this stuff has already been leaked out of the factory. Most of the time we're too close to release with a lot of these different products that most likely a lot of these things you don't even need to take with a grain of salt anymore, because most of the time this stuff is already leaked out and it is proven to most likely be the real deal here. So that's pretty much what we're talking about here. And it looks like these headphones also may be coming at the end of the year, I do believe, maybe September, October, or November for a release. It is about time, since the XM3 has been on the market for about 3 years now, so it is time to actually get these out the door and do a slight update to the XM3s. I guess if you want something crazy, you'll really have to wait until the XM5s until we get those. That will really show you a big improvement, hopefully, over the XM4s or the XM3s. Now, the next one here is actually talking about some Apple iPhone rumors, because we do have some rumors here, not specifically for the 12, but overall we're just talking about more rumors based around what they could be changing when it comes to upcoming iPhones. So I guess technically we could be talking about the iPhone 12 here, and one of the biggest key differences between some of the newer iPhones compared to the previous iPhones or the current iPhone is the fact that it's still really up in the air. What are they going to be doing when it comes to the port of the actual device? Because you guys know, with a lot of different Apple devices, more specifically their iPads and their MacBooks, they do use USB Type-C, so they use the standard charging port that's pretty much found on every modern day technology, whether we're talking about headphones, Android smartphones, the Nintendo Switch, just different headphones on the market. That's pretty much been the standard for quite some time now, and Apple realized that, so they actually did that with some of their products. They did it with their flagship iPad, the iPad Pro of 2018, and then the iPad Pro of 2020, and then all their MacBooks use USB Type-C. But it's interesting that they decided to upgrade those with the standard USB Type-C connector, but they didn't decide to do that with their iPhones. All their iPhones still use the proprietary lightning cable that they got on the, I think the iPhone 5 was actually the first iPhone to actually introduce that charging port when you compare it to the 30-pin connector they used to have prior to that. And that's actually very interesting, just due to the fact that you would think out of all the devices that Apple has, without a doubt they would want to do it on their iPhone, but for whatever reason Apple's like, no, let's change all of our other products to USB Type-C, but let's not change our iPhones to actual USB Type-C. Let's keep them on the old lightning cable. And honestly, I'm not really a fan of that cable, and I think a lot of people agree it's time to move on from that connector, just because it's older, it doesn't transfer data as fast, and one of the biggest reasons I don't like that cable specifically is just due to the fact that the lightning cable, for some reason, I feel like it's much more fragile than other options on the market. That's why I really never liked that port to begin with. It's not a bad port, but it's not an amazing port just for that reason. And of course, you don't want that port just due to the fact that everything else uses USB Type-C, and they're like one of the last companies, at least last smartphone manufacturers, that use their own proprietary cable when it comes to charging and syncing. And honestly, it's time to move on from that. Everyone's using USB Type-C. So basically, this article has two different scenarios about this. I know the rumors were for a while that the iPhone 11 was supposed to get a redesign, maybe the USB Type-C or no port at all, but it looks like, of course, that never actually panned out to be true. So basically, what people are actually predicting now, it looks like the iPhone 12 may actually, believe it or not, may still keep the lightning port. I know, what a shame that the iPhone 12 may get a redesign, but then still keep the lightning port that we've had for so many years, which doesn't really make sense to me at all, just because if they're going to change the design of the iPhone 12 to something different than the iPhone 10's design, why not just go ahead and go a step further and actually change the port to something like USB Type-C? So apparently what this article is saying on Mac Rumors, they're saying that the iPhone 12 is going to still have the lightning port, and then next year on the iPhone 12s or whatever they end up calling it, they're just going to completely chop the port at all. They're not even going to deal with USB Type-C. So they're going to go from lightning port to no port. Is that possible? I 100% actually believe this may be real. Just if you look at Apple's past time and time again, Apple is known to do some very big changes when it actually comes to their devices. Like two of the biggest ones that Apple ever did when it comes to their technology, which then a lot of companies actually followed suit, would actually be the disk drive. They chopped the disk drives off of their MacBooks. The MacBooks used to have a CD-ROM drive and a DVD-ROM drive, but they pretty much axed those on other models. Then a lot of other companies started following suit. And then as of the recent years, of course, you guys know, on the iPhone 7, I think, was the first one to actually do this. They actually ended up chopping off the headphone jack, and you know what happened after that? All the tech companies out there pretty much got rid of the headphone jack, and there's almost no smartphones on the market that doesn't have a headphone jack. So without a doubt, if this does come to fruition where Apple would actually chop the headphone jack, then chop the charging port altogether, then of course a lot of different companies on the market would follow suit over time. It wouldn't be instantly, but over time they would eventually follow suit. And there are going to be some benefits to actually doing this. First of all, of course, one of the biggest benefits is you won't have to worry about having a cable with you anywhere, so you don't have to worry about your cable snapping or anything like that. Another benefit means that it would be much more water resistant, your device, just due to the fact that, of course, you wouldn't have any ports on the actual device anymore. And then, of course, that does also mean even that little tiny port to charge your phone would mean that you would potentially be able to fit a bigger battery in there and maybe a bigger speaker. So overall, you would have more chassis on the actual smartphone to actually play around with when it actually comes to the actual design of the actual smartphone. And I'm actually all for this, but I still have a whole bunch of different questions. One of the biggest problems right now is the fact that how would you use wireless charging? Of course, we do have wireless chargers, but the thing is with these wireless chargers are not truly wireless, since you have to make contact with the phone and the charger. You pretty much lay your smartphone on a wireless charger and it charges the phone. And for a lot of different scenarios, that's really just not that practical, because if you think about it, for one, how are you going to charge this thing if you want to like charge it on the go? You'll probably have to buy like a wireless backup battery. Of course, they do actually sell those, but one of the biggest problems for me personally is I like to actually use my device when I'm actually charging it. So if my phone's out of charge, how would I actually use the device? Because when it's on the wireless charger, it would be pretty inconvenient to actually hold it in your hand and to pick it up, because obviously if you picked it up, you would take it off the charger. So what am I going to have to do in a scenario where I want to use my phone and charge my phone? I guess I would have to duct tape the wireless charger around the phone. But what I'm really hoping is, there was a rumor a very long time ago about how they may make wireless charging truly wireless by having like Wi-Fi signals that you like connect a box and it sends out a signal to charge your phone. And I do think that could be a reality, and I can actually see that being a thing. But the thing is, I don't think that technology is going to come anytime soon. I think if we got like for instance the first iPhone to have no charging port, I think we would be stuck doing traditional wireless charging for a while, maybe 4, 5, 6 years, and then possibly they can make a technology where we can truly wirelessly charge your phone. Another instance I can see this just not being too practical is if you need to charge your phone in like a car or something like that. There's just some scenarios where this wouldn't be practical, but I definitely see Apple doing this because this would be the next step. They've already chopped the headphone jack off, so what's the next thing to chop off? The cable. But then again, it would actually mean they would sell less cables to begin with if they were to chop it off. That's one accessory. But then of course they would just make it up with like wireless charging docks. They would probably force everybody to buy wireless charging stations and things like that. So just keep this in mind. This is a grain of salt at this point, and this is only a rumor, and most of the time you can't actually trust these at all, just because they said the iPhone 11 was supposed to have technology where it was supposed to be USB Type-C, but that never happened, and we're still using the old Lightning port. But yeah, I do think either next year or the year after that, without a doubt, they're definitely going to do something with the charging port, and they are going to do something a little bit different. So keep an eye out for that. The next one here is actually about the OnePlus Yeah, the OnePlus 8. It's talking about how new smartphones on the market actually have displays higher than 60 hertz when it comes to the refresh rate. So that means things on the screen are going to be much more smoother. You'll get less lag overall. The phone will feel snappier. And that is cool for day-to-day use. But most applications on like Android and iOS don't actually calculate the higher refresh rate of your device. So basically what ends up happening is your UI is much more faster when like you're browsing the internet, you're going to your home screen, you're going to your settings, but using the applications, not many applications support higher refresh rates. So most of the time your higher refresh rate for a lot of scenarios is just wasted, but at least the higher refresh rates of phones and tablets that support higher refresh rates actually benefit the most from the UI having the most speed increase, because that's where you're going to be looking around anyway, so it does make sense. But it looks like basically the OnePlus 8 can officially support Fortnite at frame rates higher than 60 frames per second, and this is not the first time Fortnite on mobile actually supported higher refresh rates than 60 frames per second or 60 hertz, just due to the fact that the iPad Pro from 2018, they actually released an update for the iOS Fortnite that actually allowed it to play at frame rates up to 120. So that's actually pretty awesome if you have like an iPad Pro 2018 or an iPad, pretty much any iPad Pro that does support 120 hertz. You will be seeing the benefits in games, and for video games specifically, that's really going to be where you're going to see the biggest benefit, because games, you need the most frame rate possible, and with shooting games specifically like Fortnite, you're really going to take advantage of that nice refresh rate. So it is nice that I think this may be one of the few Android apps that actually supports higher refresh rates, higher than 60 frames per second. And honestly, this really does make me super excited for the future. And it really does seem like some devs are actually noticing that a lot of these phones now are supporting a higher refresh rates, higher than 60 hertz. So it is nice that now if you want to play Fortnite at higher FPS, you'll be able to do it now with Android smartphones. It doesn't say that it works with any Android smartphones higher than 60 hertz. It just says the OnePlus 8 can, so maybe it's OnePlus 8 specific, but we do know for a factor that Fortnite is capable of playing with higher frame rates on Android, and that's actually very cool. And this does pretty much mean right now, if you were to play Fortnite on the go, without a doubt, playing it on your mobile device, especially like an iPad Pro or now the OnePlus 8 Pro, pretty much means that it's almost going to be almost a better experience than definitely the Nintendo Switch, which has some of the worst frame rates for Fortnite, even though it has physical controls. So basically you're giving up performance for physical controls, which is something you really can't do on mobile. You're still stuck with a touchscreen. So even though it has better performance when you're actually playing it, you're still limited to the fact that you are using a touchscreen. That's not necessarily bad, because it's the trade-off you have to make, and some people are okay with touchscreen controls. But it is funny that even the PS4 and the Xbox One in some scenarios obviously can't play games higher than 60 frames per second, since they were never meant to play games at 120 hertz, 90 hertz. So it's interesting that mobile is definitely beating the current gen consoles. Of course, when we're talking about specs, when we're talking about gaming, when we're talking about Fortnite, of course, that's probably all going to change right around next generation, of course, with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, because, of course, those consoles are going to support frame rates higher than 120, are going to support frame rates higher than 60 hertz. So that's actually very interesting. And then the last one for you guys is actually about a brand new game that's been in beta for quite some time, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks now. The game that I'm talking about is Valorant. And if you ever played Valorant, Valorant is pretty much a clone, when you think about it, a clone of Counter-Strike, and they're pretty much talking about how they're finally getting it out of the beta state, and they're going to be releasing this free to the public on PC. So if you have a PC, you'll be able to play this game on June 2nd. You can see right here, this is coming out on June 2nd, and I want to talk about this because I think this game may actually end up being the next Fortnite, because I remember when this game first came out to beta, everyone was playing this, and if you go to Twitch right now and actually look at how many people are still playing Valorant, this game always does extremely well. The one thing this game has going for it is not just the fact that it's a Counter-Strike clone, but the fact that they are mixing the gameplay with a Counter-Strike clone and something like Overwatch or Team Fortress. So basically just think about heroes in Counter-Strike. That's pretty much what you got with Valorant. But the thing that makes Valorant really appealing is the fact that it's really going to be a game for people who don't have a lot of power when it comes to their PCs and things like that. This game will pretty much play on a potato because it's using cartoony graphics. I'm assuming it won't take much to run this game. And then on top of everything I just mentioned, of course, the nice thing about this game is the fact that it's going to be appealing to so many people who are esports type fans or competitive players. So I can see this potentially becoming just as big as something like Fortnite, something as big as like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, just due to the fact that I said it's a free-to-play game. It'll run pretty much on anything. You don't really need too much power. And then to top it all off, it is a competitive game at its core, so it is going to be a very nice game to play like that. So I can see how this game's actually going to be very popular, and it is pretty cool that Riot Games just said, hey, let's make this game free to play and see where it goes from there. Of course, they'll get their money back on something like this just because, of course, this game is free to play. They're going to have skins. People are going to buy microtransactions to this game. This game will be popular with the esport crowd, with the competitive crowd. A lot of people will be trying this out. They'll get a lot of people to play it because it's free to play on sites like Twitch, YouTube, Mixer, Facebook Gaming, and then they'll get a lot of traction there. So overall, props. And this game looks like a hell of a blast. And yeah, I've yet to play this game, and I do somewhat dabble in games like Counter-Strike. I kind of like those games where they're kind of like an arena-based shooter, where it's kind of like an enclosed arena where you only have one life in each round. They go by rounds, and I think these games are very fun, very competitive. I'm probably going to try this out on June 2nd when this is officially released to everybody and it's not in open beta. It's going to be out of open beta and a full-fledged game, and yeah, pretty cool game here, so look forward to that. That's going to be the next big game, probably as big as Fortnite. I'm being honest, once this game comes out of beta, oh my god, people are going to be playing the heck out of that game. And that pretty much concludes this episode. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.